Let's walk through this for those who have not spent a ton of time inside the dashboard. We of course can take a look at how many users, how many internal users, and how many guests by simply clicking here. By clicking on any one of these groups, we can dig in a little bit deeper and see who's a member. We can add, we can remove, we can see which channels those folks are a member of, and which channels they have, as well as what our settings are, like the allow, the editing of sent messages, etc. So we can see what the policies are. As we take a look at devices, this is where we manage the many devices inside of our offices. Locations, you can put in, for example, what reporting labels are, emergency addresses, networks and locations, things along that line that are important to you. We can see all of our audio conferencing centers and the phone numbers, things like that assigned to them. So we can see if audio conferencing is on, if they have a phone system, calling plan. For meetings, we can put in our conference bridges. For meeting policies, this is really great. I'm a huge fan of this feature where we can go in and we can say, allow Meet Now in channels, or allow the Outlook add-in, which gets turned on. Outlook add-in, allow channel meeting scheduling, whether or not you want to allow people to do video, NDI. This is a newer feature that we found for a lot of folks who are doing webcasts, webinars, PowerPoint sharing, whiteboards if you want to turn that on, allow an external participant to give a request control. So all of those settings are here. Even let anonymous people start a meeting, where that way if you have guests, the meeting doesn't start until you allow them in. What the presenter rights are. Now you can adjust this based on an individual, a group of people, an OU for sales, marketing, etc. So you can create as many of these different meeting policies as you need to based on groups. So I would think about that as you want to do it. Don't create too many because it makes things a little nutty to control. But it is definitely a great way to put that together. And what those individual meeting settings are. For example, what happens when somebody gets an email invitation? Is our company logo in that? Is there a help URL within it? What ports are going to be used? And then, of course, the same for live events, what those settings are like. For messaging, we also have owners can delete messages. If you've got retention policies, you're going to want to turn that off and say, look, we want to see every message that was sent and not allow somebody to delete it. Editing sent messages, read receipts, where you get the little eye if someone has looked at it. If you want to allow Giphies or stickers or not allow, or URL previews, translation, all of that is here. And again, these are great things to sit down with before you deploy the product. And if you're a consultant, discuss with the customer. How do you want to do this? Do you allow people to leave a voice message? Do you want memes to be allowed? Do you want a preview of a URL so if somebody puts in something they found on the web or did, that you're able to see it? As we scroll down a little bit and we take a look at messaging policies, we see the same thing, but with Teams apps, we can also choose out of those 700 apps that plug in, plus the custom ones, of course, that you can bring in, what apps are allowed and which ones are not. And you can control this and the licensing, how many people can access it, who can, and all of that can all be managed right here. And we've shown also this year new ways to be able to update and manage those apps. All your permission policies around those and the setup policies now. This is newer, but really great for setting up and managing first line workers within that. I'm not going to go into voice because there's a whole lot in there that I really don't have depth in, so I'm going to skip that. But I will talk about policy packages. We have, and a lot of folks were surprised to find this out, a whole set of predefined and pre-built policy packages. So for example, if you're pushing this out to healthcare clinical workers, that we have a whole policy here around messaging and meeting that meets the HIPAA compliancy or different compliancies or best practices for those different areas, education, et cetera. So we encourage you to start with these, to use these if you're not really sure what to do, or to start with these and adjust from there. For analytics and reporting, there are usage reports here that we talked about. So we can select a team's usage, for example, and we can select a date range. But this is what that person was asking before, beyond the 7, 30, and 90 days. And that's where you can go into some of the newer tools, which can, and to manage that that will make that a lot easier for you. So, we had talked about the Microsoft 365 usage analytics, which is a new feature. I'll show that to you in a few moments, but that you could use that as a much better way to be able to be far more granular. Or if you're looking for something even deeper, the workplace analytics, which is absolutely tremendous. Org-wide settings, here's where we set up external access and guest access and what those policies are going to be. How often Teams upgrades? What are the holidays that your country or company want to observe or take a look at? If they can use Skype for Business to communicate with Teams users or vice versa. And we can quickly add domains using Azure B2B that allow and say these are the domains that are allowed to join and connect up and work with us, so that we can bring that up, choose which domains are allowed or blocked, and what the action is going to be on that domain. So that's one you definitely want to take some time to take a look at, as well as guest access. For team setting, this is where you can integrate email and cloud storage and those sort of things, where we can do things like custom tags, the email integration where they can send emails to a specific channel. We do this, we find it very useful where there's an email that I want to forward to everybody in the group. I can just forward it to the team and it shows up there and everybody can read it and take a look at it. Files, are you using Citrix or Dropbox or Google Drive or Box or Ignite? If you're not using OneDrive, and how you can bring that over. What devices as a secondary form of authentication for meeting access want to be used? Do you want to set a PIN for content? So all of these things are here and definitely well worth taking some time for.